What if I told you that one small word could completely change the way a sentence sounds? Imagine saying she sings versus she sings beautifully. See the difference? That's the power of adverbs, everyone. Welcome to the 6th episode of Grammar Unlocked. Here we will explore what are adverbs and their types and how they add detail to the sentence. So, what is an adverb? It is a word that modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. It tells us how, when, or where, what extent something happens. Let's say some instance like she speaks softly. Here, softly modifies the verb speaks. Next, it was a very cold night. Here, very modifies the adjective cold. So that's how the adverb works. Let's see some different types of adverbs like adverbs of manner, adverbs of time, adverbs of place, adverbs of frequency, and adverbs of degree. Let's look into detail. First up, adverbs of manner, which tells us how an action happens. They usually end in ly. For instance, like quickly, happily, loudly. She danced gracefully. He spoke loudly in the meeting. If you want to describe the way something happens, use an adverb of manner. Next up, adverb of time. These tells us when something happens. For instance, like yesterday, today, soon. I will call you tomorrow. He arrived early for the meeting. They help us to understand the timing of an action. Next up, adverbs of place. These tells us where an action happens. For instance, like here, there, everywhere. She looked everywhere for her keys. Come here and see this. They help give location-related details in the sentence. So that's it. Next up, adverbs of frequency. These verbs tells us how often an action happens. For instance, like always, never, sometimes. I always drink coffee in the morning. She rarely eats junk food. Use these adverbs to describe repeated actions. Here comes the last one. It is adverbs of degree, which shows the intensity or extent of an action. For instance, like to, almost, completely. It's too hot today. I'm almost finished with my work, which help us to express how much something happened. It is a quick recap. Adverbs of manner tells how something happened. Adverbs of time tells us when something happens. Adverbs of place represents where something happens. Adverbs of frequency represents how often something happens. And lastly, adverbs of degree represents to what extent something happens. So that's a wrap for today's episode of Grammar Unlocked. If you have any questions about adverbs, feel free to ask me in the comment section. And want to improve your grammar? Please do subscribe to English Unlocked and share with your friends too.